Mizzou women's basketball topped number 1 South Carolina in overtime thriller last night, 70-69. It was the Tigers' first win over a number 1 team in the AP poll. They were previously 0-8 in such matchups. Not only did the Tigers win their SEC opener for the season, but they did so with a limited roster due to COVID-19 protocols, which included Missouri's leading scorer and rebounder, Aijha Blackwell. I am Luca Vitale, and joining me today are my co-hosts Ryan Waelterman and Ben Schmidt. All right, I'm going to start with you, Ryan. Just how good is this Tigers squad, or what did you exactly learn from this game?
Thanks, Luca. Obviously, the Missouri Tigers are a very good team. I was trying to tell a lot of people yesterday as I tuned on the game at my work that I think the Tigers had a really good chance of upsetting here. And I didn't even know that they were without their leading scorer in Aijha Blackwell. And I think they had 7-8 players that were only playing. But Lauren Hansen woke up feeling violence because, man, she had a great game. She had 21 points, and Haley Frank also had 21 points herself. This team, obviously, they won, and they just beat the number 1 team with only 7 to 8 players. So I think that tells you a lot about this women's basketball team. Obviously, just the biggest win in program history, a huge win. And I just think it means so much more to obviously the AP poll people. I think the Tigers should be ranked now. And I just think this shows the grit that this women's team has and that they can just win games without their number 1 player on the court. And it's just, it doesn't even have to be her. It doesn't have to be Aijha Blackwell to have the best game, because if she's having an off night, one of the other ladies is going to have a really good night, as you saw last night with Lauren Hansen, who obviously is a junior, and she just played so well, man. And I think that obviously the screens really hurt the Gamecocks. I think that they were not ready for that. I think the South Carolina Gamecocks came into this game a little cocky, thinking that they were probably just going to destroy the Tigers, which obviously you can't really do that to this Tigers team because they're a very, very good team this year. And I mean, I just think it speaks value, man, on what this women's basketball team can do.
You know, I agree with you here I also like the fact that you said if someone were to have an off night, another player would pick up the slack. And you're 100% right. When I did the SIUE game, when I produced that game, they played Haley Frank did not play well. She had 4 fouls in the span of the first half. She barely played because she was going to foul out regardless. But Aijha Blackwell, key reserves in Izzy Higginbottom and Haley Troop, which left the game last night, by the way, with a calf injury. They were able to pick up the slack. Credit to Lauren Hansen as well, Sarah Rose Smith, more credit to them. But what I learned about this game most is that Robin Pinchton, the coach, that she can coach masterclass. Okay. Not only was she down her conference star in Aijha Blackwell, her key 6 woman in Izzy Higginbottom, and size against the number 1 team in the nation. She was able to coach her way to a 32-26 halftime against the Gamecocks, and everybody knows Dawn Staley, the Gamecocks coach. This coach is masterclass. She's able to recruit basically the best women in basketball in the nation every year, and this is why this team's always good. This is a team that beat UConn. So this UConn ain't some scrubs. This is one of the best teams in the nation, and they beat UConn. They beat Stanford the other night, and then Mizzou took them down last night. So she had to be smart, Pinchton, with her game plan and her substitutions. When you only have 8 players available, and then you get down 7 because Haley Troop got hurt, and it paid off because her players executed that plan just very well. Missouri, what they did, because they were limited on size, they clogged the lane, and they forced the Gamecocks to shoot those 3-pointers. Into the Gamecocks' credit, they made their shots early, but they only made 3 out of 10 heading into halftime. So it sort of was limited, but when they roared back in the third quarter, what Pinchton did, she called that key timeout. She settled the team down, and she put more trust in her players, and it showed with Mama DeBelli hitting those 3-pointers, Haley Frank creating more offense, Hansen shooting confident shots, Williams holding her own against some of the best players in the nation, especially Boston on the Gamecocks, because Boston, she got going late, and that cost the Gamecocks in a key way.
And yeah, you guys have already hit on most of this, but I just want to bring up something too that shocked me when I was watching the broadcast near the end of that game. And it kind of goes along with the fact that they don't have to win one certain way, whether it's a player having an off night or they're having an off night in one part of the game. They can still overcome that and be competitive. And that's how we've seen them be competitive with Baylor this season, a Missouri State team that was not a bad team whatsoever. That's their one other loss. And then last night against South Carolina. At one point in that game, with just a couple minutes to go, they were being out rebounded on the offensive boards 20-5. So not only when they were shooting this South Carolina team to take those 3-point shots, usually when they miss, you grab the rebound and it works. But they kept getting out rebounded and they still were able to overcome that, score enough points, force enough missed shots to win the game. So that's what really impressed me. I think eventually it finished up being 20-6 in favor of South Carolina on the offensive boards, and then the total rebounds was South Carolina by 10. So they got out rebounded all over the floor all night long, and they still were able to overcome that with 8 players, with another one going out to injury late in the game, and all these girls having to play almost the entire game plus the 5-minute overtime period. So that just speaks volumes. I know you guys have already talked about it. They can win in multiple different ways, whether it be with different players, different coaching schemes. I think this team is really impressive. They're going to have some more tough games coming up here in the next couple of weeks, but I think they've already shown they can compete with multiple good different teams. And hopefully we'll see that continue when they face some good ranked SEC teams like LSU, Georgia, and then Tennessee a couple games after that. So this team is really impressive and has a chance to really make some noise here come January and February.
Well, I will say this. Not only did they win this game because they were able to limit Boston in the first half, but they were able to fight through that mismatch, like I mentioned, because like you said, Ben, the Gamecocks were able to own that rebounding battle. We saw it. South Carolina had the clear advantage from the start. No Aijha Blackwell, no Izzy Higginbottom from the bench. It was clear. But when you have a sizing advantage like South Carolina did with Victoria Saxton, with Camila Cardoso in Boston, they owned that rebounding battle. I believe it was 42-31 the way it ended. But it's most important here is the Tigers made the shots when they mattered the most. It wasn't on the offensive end. It was also on the defensive end, too, where they were able to get these rebounds. So when you get into foul trouble, which the Gamecocks did, which I got to give credit to the Tigers for, because it was Saxton, Cardoso, and Boston. They got into foul trouble heading into that fourth quarter, and they got the rebounds that the Tigers needed to. So it played a key part into this game, in my opinion, clogging the lane when South Carolina was on offense, forcing them to shoot 3-pointers, facilitating the ball on offense, getting those screens to get towards the basket, and it paid off. And that's why Mizzou won this game.
Yeah, I completely agree, Luke. The screens really just for something that South Carolina was not ready for at all. And then real quick, I will say I was very happy that Hansen was able to make that last-minute layup, but I just really wish there was 0.0 seconds left on the clock, because did anyone actually believe that Boston made that shot to win the game? They would have had to have at least 0.2 to win the game.
It's impossible to the new rule states that it has to be 0.3 or more. So really, I don't know why they made them run that situation. I'm with you, Ryan. Like, I wish it just ended right there. But I get why they had to play it out in case a foul happened. But yeah, it was funny to see South Carolina players shocked. They weren't even going to review, but in reality, that's just the rule in place, and it has to be 0.3 or greater to be able to get a shot off.
All right. Well, South Carolina only made 32.8 of their shots last night, and then Missouri shot 43.1% from the field. So in that scenario, Ryan, where do you think the Tigers should be ranked now heading into next week?
That's a great question, because I was about to just ask you guys that. So obviously, with the only 2 losses coming against a very, very good Missouri State and Baylor team, and mind you, the women's only lost to Baylor by 2, I think that you're seeing somewhere in maybe this would be like a really big one, but maybe the 20 to 15 range. A lot of people would say 25 to 20, but I'm going with 20 and 15 just because they played Baylor very well. I think the AP people are going to look at that. And then, yeah, Missouri State did hand it to the Tigers, but still knocked off the number 1 team. And I think that speaks a lot of volume to the AP voters as well, especially with this team being 12-2. I think that you see somewhere at least maybe a 20, 18, or 17 ranking.
I'm going to go with the 20 to 25 range. Do I think that this team is better than that? Yes, I certainly do. But I wouldn't necessarily take a whole lot of stock in it because they're only getting started with that SEC schedule. Some of the teams I mentioned earlier, and then there's other games in there as well, like Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Ole Miss. So, I mean, if they believe which we all believe they should win those games, if they actually take care of business, they'll start moving up the ladder up into the top 15, top 10 regardless. I definitely think that this team has a chance to compete with every SEC team on that schedule, and I think they will win a decent amount of. But I just think with it being earlier on in that tougher schedule, they'll put them 20 to 25 just to get them in. But I wouldn't necessarily take a lot of stock in that because I do think that they are a better team than what the number will show. And if they take care of business like they believe we should and the fans believe they should, then they'll start moving up regardless. And they'll be right where they need to be come into the season if they actually are as good as we think they are.
Well, before I answer the question, I just want to credit the 6,000 fans that showed up to Mizzou Arena last night. That was something big and something to be proud of, honestly, because the women's basketball team really struggled last year and they've shown up this year, and the fans are definitely excited for that. But nevertheless, I believe that you are right, Ben, that Mizzou is going to be ranked within that 20 to 25 range. If I had to pinpoint it, it's going to be number 22 in my opinion. Obviously the Missouri State loss did hurt them big time. I mean, you're gonna have an off game when you're a good team like this, so it's not the end of the world. But Baylor, I mean, Lauren Hansen, she showed up last night and she was able to get that second opportunity because she did miss that buzzer beater against Baylor and she made it last night. So she was able to get some redemption there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it completely agreed. Going back to the fans part, I mean, I was following it on Twitter all night, but I didn't actually have the broadcast on until midway through the fourth quarter. And just to see the atmosphere at Mizzou Arena was really incredible, especially as you can when you consider the fact that it was January 30th, half of or most of campus is home for Christmas break. So the fact that everyone that was there in Columbia showed out for that game to see a really great matchup and really get behind the team was really fantastic to see.
All
yeah,
right.
and real quick, I'm just gonna say two things. Obviously, they're rocking the new jerseys. I think those jerseys look sick. I thought it was a little like 80s throwback, maybe. I thought they were really cool throwback jerseys. And then obviously just having the game being played at home was really, really cool. And obviously, like you guys said, just so awesome that the Columbia faithful showed out for that game. I think it helped out the Tigers so much that game was a home game. And I mean, just an outrageous win. Obviously, the biggest win in program history. So congrats to Robert Pinchton and congrats to the Missouri women's basketball team.
Yeah. All right. Mizzou can savor this win until Sunday when they head to Nashville, Tennessee, when they take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. But until then, thanks for tuning in to Around the Waves here on KCOU YouTube, and we will see you later.